Hello and welcome back. First thing we got to do is take this thing apart. Just using a combination of X-Acto knife, pliers, butter knife, screwdriver, anything to pull or pry or cut this thing apart. I want to do a complete remake, new paint. There's, a little bit of a glue bomb on some of the areas here. Now I'm doing my best not to break any of the parts, but, that really can't be helped. But most anything you break, you should be able to fix or remake or even find replacement parts on eBay. And I got a comment on the first video. Commenter's name is VO-K. He left a link to a website or a build series of his build, and he did a really phenomenal job. Just incredible work. I highly recommend you check it out. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video so you can go check that out. But if mine turns out half as good as his, I'll be pretty pleased. So we'll just keep taking this thing apart. Got it apart into major chunks. Some of this, I swear it's like he used wood glue for some of it and super glue for some and solvent for some. Some of that is so well stuck together. I don't think it's worth breaking this apart. I think I'll do more damage here than what it's worth for what this is. I mean, I'll pull these off. And I'll have to take all this apart because I want to completely redo all of this. But I'll work on this separately later. The first step in the instructions is the engine. So this is the engine all broken down. This is going to be the first step in the instructions. This is what I'm going to start on. And this was really well glued together for the most part. I mean, that just, well, it broke some tabs, but it popped right off. Broken tabs, I'm not too concerned about. Those are easily fixable. That just kind of fell right off. But these, which broke, they go like that. But again, easily fixable. Those did not want to come off at all. These really had a hard time coming off. So this is what I've got it broken down to. And you can see where it was really bonded on well here. So again, it's like, I mean, some of the stuff, I mean, literally, I think they used wood glue. It just broke apart very, very easily. But this was all solvent welded. I'm not going to pull this out of there. I'm not going to split the case. I think that would just be way too much. But this needs to be painted. On the real engine, the block is cast iron. So I'll paint this a cast irony type of black. Probably just a semi-flat black or something. The top half, from all the photos I've seen, is either just aluminum or kind of like a gold painted color. I think I'm going to do that in gold, and of course these will remain chromy. They just need to be cleaned up a little bit. So, and of course all these other pieces need to be painted various colors of metal or black or whatever. The pulleys are a little crooked and not looking too good. I may return those on the lathe out of aluminum, maybe. Again, we'll just see how that goes. So anyways, that's where I am. And I still got a lot of pieces to kind of break apart and fix. But I'm going to start with the engine. And let's get this cleaned up. I'll get the seams filled up. And then we'll get her painted. All right, so I need to get some work done on this engine. I actually have not touched this in like 2 days. So I don't remember what I said like 3 seconds ago. So sorry if I'm repeating anything. I've been looking at a lot of images online of the engine and the car, and I've been trying to figure out how I want to go about some of this. For example, the acorn nuts right up here. I can buy chrome acorn nuts online, but to do all of them, I'm going to pay like $60 worth of acorn nuts. So I don't think I'm going to be doing that. Because I only paid $60 for this whole model. Actually less than that. 42. I paid $42 for this whole model. I'm not going to pay $60 just for nuts on the top that probably nobody will even notice. Instead, I did buy, I've been wanting to try one of these for a long time. I just got this in the mail today, this liquid chrome paint pen. I've not tried it yet. I just opened it. I can buy a refill bottle for this. This was like 12 or 15. I think it's $12. They go anywhere from 12 to 15 usually, so I got the cheapest one, 12 bucks. You can buy a refill bottle. It's like a couple of ounces for like $30. If this works as well as I hear it does, I might just buy that refill bottle for airbrushing chrome. But I planned on using this for the acorn nuts on the top. On the real car, there's supposed to be like a copper washer under each of those. And again, I could buy acorn nuts, real chrome ones, and little copper washers, but man, that's just, it's a ton of money in it for just a little bit of extra detail. So I'm trying to think about how I want to do that. Now, when I was taking this apart, some of those actually broke off. So what I have a few ideas of how I could simulate the copper washer under those, so I'm still thinking about that. But either way, I have to glue those back on. So I've been looking at pictures of the real engine. A few things I noticed. They had the oil filter mounted. That's not the oil filter. They had the oil filter mounted here. Every picture I've seen, the oil filter goes here. So I'm going to finish this curve around here, probably just out of styrene stock. Put some nuts around here. I'll use this, but I'll remake this for that. And the oil pan that goes on the bottom, again, that oil filter adapter, I have to finish the curve around. This line here is supposed to simulate the oil tube going back into the pan. I'll shave that off. I'll put a real tube on there, put a fitting on here. Also, on some engines, the oil pan has ribs, like 5 or 6 ribs along here and on the other side. Some have it, some don't. So I don't know if I want to do that or not. I might do that. So in my quest to try to make this realistic, they were missing a circle here. Those are, I'm assuming those are freeze plugs, and I've got a picture. I've got a picture that I found online that I'm referring to, that I'm kind of trying to make this look like it. Basically, for that, I just sliced off the end of a piece of tubing and glued it on. This right here, where the kit had the oil filter, on the picture of the engine I'm looking at, there's just like a plug. So I just have a piece of tubing and a set screw that fit in there, and that actually looks like the photo that I have. I'm still working on making something up to finish this, where the real oil filter goes, but also on the real engine, there's raised lettering here that says Jaguar. Now, once this is installed, you're never going to see that, but I'm going to try it. I very carefully, with masking tape and black enamel paint, painted it on here. So what I'm going to do is put that in a little container of, yeah, that was slick. I'm going to put that in a little container of some etching. This is just circuit board etching. And just get a little bit here. I don't know how well this is going to turn out, just because it's so small. Oh, and I put clear packaging tape on the back so that hopefully it won't etch into the back. But we'll just slip that in there and we'll see what it does. Like I said, I'm not expecting much, but sometimes I get lucky, and things I try actually work. So yeah, I'll get back with you in a second, show you what that looks like. Okay, so I took it out of the etching solution, and I mic'd it. I took about half the thickness off. I don't want to go too much thinner. I think it's good enough. I think you'll see it. So I'm just going to use my my wife's scissors. I mean my scissors here, and I'm just going to gently cut around that. And once we get this cut out, I'll go around the edge. Go around the edge with my wife's fingernail. I mean my wife's fingernail file, And we'll just clean that edge up a little bit. I'm going to leave the paint on it because the paint will add some thickness. I mean, not much, but it needs all the help it can get. And I got it shoved in there. That's pretty good, I think, where it needs to be. Just kind of pushing it down. I need something that will fit, just to kind of push it into that curve there. And I think that looks okay. Whether you'll see it or not once it's painted, I don't know. I'm just going to put a little bit of super thin CA in here. Hopefully that'll run under it. And clean up any excess there. Just do that. A little bit more on this side. That'll get under there. And I think that's pretty good. Just give it a quick little spray here. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you like that or not. It doesn't matter because it's not coming out unless I really don't like it after I paint it. Once I get the paint on it, because it's kind of hard to tell. And you got the yellow, then the black, then the brass. Kind of hard to see any depth on it. But once I get a coat of paint on that, if I don't like it, I'll scrape it out of there, clean it up, and not worry about it. And like I said, that will never be seen once it's in. And yeah, I know I've said that several times. Okay, next thing I want to do is get this little plug piece in. And again, I'm just going by a photo. I'm not sure what that little plug piece is actually for. I'm thinking maybe oil filters used to go there. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's where the kit, whoever had the kit before me, that's where he put the oil filter. I haven't really looked at the instructions that closely yet, so maybe that's where the kit had him put it, and that's why I put it there. But again, like I said, every photo I've looked at, it's always been a plug, a raised boss and a plug, just like that. Get a little bit of that fill in around there. So I'm just making it look like the photo. Too much. Probably shouldn't be using that super thin stuff. But yeah, that's it pretty much looks just like the photo. I need to put a fillet around here, right around there, so it looks like the casting is kind of coming up a little bit. All right, so I've got that. I just looked at photos online, and there's a few different designs for this filter adapter, I guess is what you'd call it. So that right there will be the hose that goes down to the oil pan. And again, I just kind of eyeballed it from different photos I saw online. I went ahead and put some nuts here. The way I did that was I just glued on a piece of this square stock. So I just glue on a little piece of square stock, and then after that glue set, and I'm using solvent, not glue, but solvent. And after that set, I went in with a 10X eye loop and a brand new X-Acto blade, and I just went through and I cut off the corners of the squares to make bolt heads. Now, unfortunately, the zoom feature on my camera doesn't work, so you'll just have to take my word for it that they're all perfect. Also sanded around a fillet here, just using spot glaze body filler stuff to make that look a little smoother around there. The next thing I want to focus on is the top of the engine. These acorn nuts here. Now on the real engine, now some have it and some don't, and that is lifting loops. engine hoisting loops. And I just made that out of aluminum TIG rod, or aluminum welding rod, TIG rod. And I just cut a length, bent it to shape, flattened the ends, and those go under, let me get a better grip on this. Those go under those two acorn nuts here, and I made another one to go under those two acorn nuts here. So obviously I'm going to have to cut those acorn nuts off to reglue them on the top of that hoisting loop. So I figured I might as well cut them all off so that I can just airbrush all of that in their gold, paint each of the acorn nuts chrome, and then glue them all back on again. I think that'd be the easiest, well, maybe not the easiest, but the best way to get a good result of that. Which, since I'm working up here, brings me to these spark plugs. Whoever did this before, they just put a drop of super glue on all of those to put the wires on, and that ran down and made a mess. They broke off the top of all the spark plugs, so I probably won't be able to attach the wires to the spark plugs. Plus I want to clean all those off, so I decided to replace all of the spark plugs. So here's one. Now it's probably not perfect scale when you're zoomed in, but to the naked eye, I think it looks pretty good. Now this needs another coat of paint. I did put a coat of white paint. Once the plug's on, you won't see it. But let me show you how I do that. Start off with a piece of the aluminum TIG rod. And I put on one of those little nuts. That nut is left over from the poacher kit that I did. Let me get rid of that for a second. And focus there. All right. So put that little nut on. And I'm just going to take a little drop of the super thin CA on that nut. Now that's way too much on there. So I'm just going to take a little paper towel and blot off the excess CA. And I'm just going to let that sit. I could spray it. To cure quicker, but I'm not in a rush, so I don't want to waste my spray. And so now I have a bunch of these, like that. And I'm going to cut one into length. Let me go ahead and just do that here. So just using my other one to cut this one to length. Close enough. And then we need to turn that shape on there. So let me get set up to do that, and I'll show you how that goes. So I just have it chucked up in my handheld lathe, and I'm just going to use, I have a little round file and a flat file. That's pretty much it. I'll have to fine tune it a bit because, again, I can see it better when I'm doing this. So, you know, there we go, it kind of works. So I'll have to go back and fine tune it a bit and do a few more. And again, just paint them and glue them in. Okay, so I cut my nuts off and chrome plated them. Um, I should rephrase that. I didn't technically chrome plate them. I used the liquid chrome paint pen here. And I got to tell you, I don't know if you can, it might come up on camera. That looks better than any chrome paint I've ever used. I mean, I think it's shinier in real life than on the camera, but I was really impressed with that stuff, which it better be for as expensive as that thing was. I mean, it's like 12 bucks for this, and a 2-ounce jar. I think it's 2 ounce. A jar of just the ink is like, or the paint is like 30 bucks. Crazy. But anyways, so like I said, I've got those shaved off here. I've got the spark plugs cut off, holes drilled out. So now my new homemade spark plugs will just go into there. I cut the bottom out so I can glue it from the inside there. This, I think, is ready for paint, but it's been way too cold to paint. It's supposed to be like 70. I need to say that's a little rough. It's supposed to be like 70-ish when you paint, and it's like been in the 40s, 30s, somewhere in there. So too cold to paint, so I'm going to hold off on that. There's also supposed to be oil lines, oil feed lines that go here, tie into here, and come down to here. I'll probably put those in after I paint it. Would probably be easier because those lines will be metal and this will all be painted. So I might just drill a couple of holes and then put those lines in after it's painted. The oil pan, I shaved off the line here, sanded that smooth. Had to do a little fill there. Drilled a hole here for the line that'll go in. And I filled in the shrink marks from when this was casted, because it's thicker where those posts are, so it shrunk and left a divot. So I filled those in. So these are ready for paint for the most part, a couple of holes, I guess. So these are ready for paint, which I have to wait. So I started reassembling the carburetors. These got busted apart when I removed them. And you can see I also cut off the posts here, because what I want to do is use actual aluminum tubes like that. So I cut the posts off, I opened up the hole. I actually had a reamer, the perfect size for that. So to make that a nice round hole, I opened it up with the reamer. And as far as detailing the carburetors, they're already very nicely molded. I mean, they did a really nice job when molding these things out. Of course, that goes there. And I got to glue that piece on. A couple little pieces got to glue in. So as far as, man, I wasn't even on camera, I'm sorry. So I just got to glue some of these pieces back on. Like I was saying, the kit did a really good job of detailing the carburetors. So I think what I'm going to do, as far as extra detail, I would like to add the fuel rail, and that's going to go from here, loop around up to here, loop around up to that one that gets reattached up to here. And if I can get a good picture of how the throttle cable connects, I would like to get the throttle cable connected as well. That way I have a throttle cable, have a fuel line, and then they would be theoretically complete, I guess. There's smaller little lines and details that I probably won't be able to do. So I don't plan on adding that much more extra detail. I think what's really going to make these look good is if I do a good job on the painting. So this will be various shades of aluminum, steel, a little bit of brass touch-up for some fittings and stuff, or copper. As far as chrome goes, looking at photos of the real ones on different cars, these are almost always chromed, so those will definitely stay chromed. And it's like half of them, these are chromed, some chrome pieces here, and half of them, they're just like brushed aluminum or like polished aluminum. So I'm kind of on the fence with this. I don't want to do too much chrome on the kit. On a scale model kit, sometimes, if you have too much chrome, it almost starts to look fake. So I'm going to take it easy on the chrome. What I'll probably do is just different shades of aluminum, polished aluminum, like I said before. I might touch up a few pieces with the chrome pen. But anyways, that's where I'm at now. I ordered some brass stock square. I got round. I ordered some brass square stock because I'm going to have to remake the subframe parts, all of this stuff, because the way the kit did it's just not accurate at all. It just doesn't look good. So I'm going to remake all of that subframe stuff out of brass. So I'm waiting for that to come into the mail. I ordered some little tiny brass washers that I'll put under these nuts here. So again, I'm waiting for those. As far as the engine goes, oh, and I still have to do something with these. I'll do something with that later. But as far as the engine goes, I'm kind of stuck until I can paint. So I feel like this video is getting to be rather long. I apologize. Thank you guys for hanging in. That's been watching. I appreciate it. So I'm going to end this one here. When I get back in the next video, hopefully, I'll be finishing up the engine and starting the subframe parts with all of my brass square tubing. And is that all? I think that's all. So, like I said, I'm going to end it here. I feel like at this point I never know how to end a video. I just ramble on. So I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to say, thanks for watching.